Seen him somewhat removed from the scene over the last few years. He's been very busy doing real life things, but here he is competing on the Disco Pro Tour, and I guarantee he's going to put on a show.
It's going to be fun to see how this local favorite does with these cameras and this crowd.
And we're starting out here, Steve, on a 638-foot par 4. We're going to be battling the wind all day, maybe even some rain, and we'll get back to some of the other dangers out here in just a moment.
Second on the tee, out of Denver, North Carolina, representing Team Discraft, Michael Johansen.
And another Team Discraft member, Michael Joe. You'll pronounce his name wrong a few times today. Here he is.
I will be happy to. One thing we should note, Matthew Blakely's drive ended up inbounds. He got the green paddle.
And just as Michael Joe releases his drive, we're watching that head. That looks like it will be safe. I feel my first raindrop of the day. Not great.
And third on the tee, out of Johnson City, Tennessee, representing Team Prodigy, Chris Dickerson.
Nico was a last-minute drop at the tournament, and Chris Dickerson has stepped up from the 2 o'clock car to take his place. Very happy to have him on board. I saw him deuce this yesterday in practice.
And he goes with a turnover that's fighting the wind, and it gets kicked down a little bit. He is safe.
And last on the tee, out of Huntington Beach, California, 4-time world champion, representing Team Innova, Paul McBeth.
And Paul McBeth. He's missed a few of the Pro Tour stops, but he says he's making the rest. Today's the date it starts.
You got to figure with this win, these guys are playing this relatively safe, but Paul looked like he might have been going for the deuce there.
And a crush. Again, Steve Dodge edited the women's footage from earlier this morning. Let's get to the action on hole 1 here at Idlewild. Chris with a standstill. It's a little bit wide and just about pin high. That should work for him.
And keep going. Throwing into these woods can easily just be an OB stroke. Very nice upshot by Matthew Blakely.
Just deep past the basket.
Power rank #1 right now. And there's some significant names not here. Michael Johansen is actually the next highest ranked player here at number 10. Right wind, and it's going to be interesting to see if he attacks this.
And McBeth with somewhat of a step putt, trying to stay. And missing out on the birdie opportunity from inside the circle. Here's McBeth. McBeth converts. That gives us 3 birdies and the par to open up here on our first round at the Idlewild Open, presented by Innova
and
the Nati. We'll see you on hole 2. And Matthew Blakely says, not that, meaning he missed his line on the right side, hitting one of the singular trees we find. and just missing that same tree. Michael Joe, 509 feet here for hole number 2. This is also a par 4.
Yeah, these guys are trying to lay it probably 40 to 50 feet short of the road, and then they'll have a nice look at up and down for a look at the birdie on this relatively easy par 4 if you can navigate these first few trees. That is a perfect shot by Paul McBeth. Chris Dickerson doesn't look like he got over that, and it fades off left. And
that looks to be OB, Steve. We're going to have our spotter run it down. I know there's paddles to indicate, but I believe that is in fact going to be out of bounds. Let's see how the women did earlier on hole 2.
They also have a tremendous power as well. As you said, if you can throw a putter 400, you've got some power. Chris attacks that green, and he makes it over. He's going to have a circle 1 putt to save par. Amazing.
And Blakely, who is in perfect position once he's approached to where he did. A few more raindrops. McBeth is getting up and ready to throw very quickly.
I think that's safe, but not by very much. The spotter is saying he's inside the wall. That sounds like it was not high enough to get in bounds. Michael Johansen, as always, throws pretty quickly and gets it within 10 feet.
Here for the OB.
He clears it that time, but not by a lot. He will be...
That we can just
Three umbrellas in the trail.
Yeah.
Right?
You'll need it.
I would love it.
As you're watching the action unfold, I apologize. We're getting into position. The rain is picking up more and more steady, as you're seeing with the players. And we're going to be back with you in a few moments. We're going to make sure we have everything protected as well as we can. Stay tuned. You're watching live Disc Golf right here on the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
Hole 3, 407 feet. Michael Johansen's drive, straight as a string. Comes up a little bit short. He's going to have about a 50 to 60 footer for birdie.
And Mats is carrying toward the OB on that left side.
Maybe smart. He's in the living room in front of a fire reading a book.
And McBeth, with almost no walk-up or prep, just walks up to the tee and in one swift motion throws a great shot. Let's see how the wind...
It's got to be tough coming back from break. He doesn't quite follow through. Leaves that left. He's going to have a nice up and down save the par.
And like a professional, no problems putting it within 20. And almost putting it in, just coming up. And Michael has a little bit of a tree obstruction there. It's really
For birdie to close to 1.
And no problems for Dickerson.
I think that was a good catch by the basket, actually. I don't know about those guys out there, but my clothes are a little bit wet, and that would affect my putting stroke, and my drives and my approaches.
Blakely will tap in, and McBeth, with his hands on his hips, realizing he let an easy birdie opportunity slip past him there after a pretty solid drive just before the rain delay that we experienced. And we'll be back with you in a few moments from hole 4 right here on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And a very uncharacteristic forehand here by Michael Joe, pulling out a few extra tricks on hole number 4. Hole 4 measuring in at 504 feet, par 4.
The one thing you don't want to do is have a backhand cut roll, because that's going to go right into the water. Michael Joe just playing safe, saying 3 is a good score.
And Steve, as you mentioned, it's all about angle on this hole. You want to make sure that when it comes down and hits the ground, it does not have a chance to roll out toward the water. We'll see how aggressive Paul McBeth is on this drive.
With 50 holes to play, Paul McBeth puts it out there. Is fading left and hits a tree. His body language said he thought that was going OB, but the tree said no.
I think we call that tree-nied.
I think that's a tree save. Chris Dickerson puts it way out there. It fades back. And it goes pretty far left. We'll have to see when we get up there if that's in or out. Let's see how the ladies played hole 5.
Or 4.
Or both. Gibson parked this hole. Matt Blakely puts it up. He wants it to slow down. And it is in fact past. Looks like a good 35 feet past. He's going to have an exciting putt back.
And McBeth knows really the only thing he can do is lay up. Had that basket maybe not been elevated, it may have drawn a little more metal than the and front cage by Matthew Blakely. You just mentioned a moment ago, not only are you putting on an elevated basket, but he was also slightly below it in terms of the hillside, as opposed to Michael Joe, who is a little bit higher elevated, having a more direct putt. And we'll see a few tap-ins. Again, coming out to this hole, taking a 3 here, which is still considered a birdie, is perfectly fine if you're playing really aggressive. You may go after that very daunting eagle, but you can't really be too mad with a 3.
No, not at all. You're not losing strokes on. You're basically not losing strokes on anybody. And let's hear a word from our sponsors and get to the next tee.
Michael Joe with what I believe is a Comet here on this 555-foot hole number 5. This is also a par 4.
He shows how that Comet is exactly supposed to be thrown. I've been watching him do that for 15 years now. Paul McBeth with a very smart forehand. Much like the previous hole, you don't want to cut roll into the pond, into the creek that lines the left-hand side. These guys want to get it as far down they can, and they got to tuck it a little bit right to avoid that water down there.
And Dickerson here with a backhand roller. What do you think of that play?
I think it was a very aggressive shot. It's kind of fun that we've had 3 shots. We had an amazing backhand, a safe forehand, and then a very aggressive roller. These guys are playing 3 different courses.
I think we're going to see a roller here by Blakely. And Blakely gives it a little bit more air before it comes down. It's got to stand up and turn over for him. And all the eyes are watching, and that looks to be OB. We get the red paddle. Let's see how the women did earlier on hole 5. And McBeth nearly rang it up for the 2.
He asked for it to sit. It does. He'll be able to save the bogey from there.
And just off the front of the cage. Center chain for McBeth. That's going to be a birdie.
This is a 555-foot par 4, hole 5. Michael Joe saves the par.
Speaking of playing fast, I'll just ask Michael Joe to hurry up a little bit. We'll get things going. Blakely will take the OB4, and Chris Dickerson will tap in for a straight up 4. We're moving on to hole 6. We'll be back in a moment.
That's a nice big drive. It's turning. He wants it to turn more. I have no idea how close he is.
He gets a late clap from the gallery. Here's Michael Joe.
Michael Joe turns it quite a bit more than Paul.
And Blakely trying to cut it with a shortcut, just a little too much there. He catches cabbage on the right side. And Dickerson looking to lay down a roller. Our favorite sponsor, Miles Parkhill, tells me that's not cabbage, that's rhubarb. We're moving on.
Matthew Blakely opting for the up and around. That dives in left, 15 feet.
Great thought process. There's another short in front of the basket as you give me those beautiful eyes.
Pearly blues, we call them.
And McBeth just slightly right, certainly the right amount of height. And no doubt there by Dickerson. Great gallery out here. This is a Thursday afternoon. Really excited to see so many people from the community and beyond come out and join us in person. Thank you guys for tuning in to the live broadcast here with the Disc Golf Pro Tour from Idlewild.
It's not only is it a Thursday afternoon, it's a Thursday afternoon after a 1 hour lightning delay. And there's still about 100 people here enjoying the play by some of our sport's best.
Of course, everyone can stick around this weekend as we watch Paul McBeth tap in. The Festival of Flying Discs will be taking place here at the park. Make sure you come out and join us. We're moving on to hole 7 right here on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And Chris Dickerson going up and over, trying to take the thin gap, as you just mentioned, tried to take that totally out of play. We'll see if that's going to be the play by the rest of our competitors. They may try and just go up and over.
Yeah, it's an interesting play. When you can throw a little under 300, as can I, the thin gap's the play. So if you can throw 500, I guess there's another window up there.
And McBeth also opts for going up and over, however, a different line. And it
Landed right in the fairway.
appears to have landed right in the fairway, Steve says. And missing the first couple of trees, but getting a decent carry. He gets the green paddle.
You did get the green paddle, and he's probably about 90 feet behind where McBeth ended up. That went a little far left, rolled back down, and is OB. Let's see how the women played this hole.
And what a daunting drop zone in second shot.
Yeah.
And MJ throws a great shot, catches a late tree, but still a great shot here in this very narrow fairway. McBeth throwing a rock here on the approach, puts it next to the pin. No problems. And Dickerson pulling out all the tricks, going to one knee with a forehand. It's fighting forward. Hopefully it just flops over and it's done just that. He'll have a putt for birdie from there. Oh, and just short. Great patent pending shot there by Matthew Blakely, almost putting it in to save the par. top band there by Michael Joe on the uphill straddle putt. And the birdie 3 there by Chris Dickerson, getting each of the last 2 holes. Very impressive. As again, we're moving into a much more wooded section of the course. We know that MJ will definitely be at home. He plays very well in the woods, hailing out of North Carolina. And McBeth will have the easiest cleanup for birdie of them all. We're moving on to hole 8. We'll be back in a moment after a word from our sponsors.
And if that flexes out at the right time, you have a very good look to get up and down. But he let it go a little early, a little low. Paul McBeth now, he's 3 down through 7, sitting in a 3rd place tie with Michael Johansen. James Conrad, who's through 8, is also 3 down. Zach Melton, Drew Gibson, and Andrew Presnell are also 3 down.
McBeth's much higher, and I'm not sure you could throw a better tee shot on this hole, could you, Steve?
I think you're sure I couldn't.
I'm definitely sure of that.
That was absolutely insane. That's about 50 feet past where I anticipated the best drives getting.
And Michael Joe, who we saw a forehand from earlier, opts for the backhand and puts himself left center side of fairway. Matthew Blakely, who's been struggling here in the opening few holes. Let's see if he can get back on track. And Dickerson going with a backhand roller. Steve, you just mentioned you really want to be on the left side of the fairway. However, that looks like it'll be all right for him. But you're saying if you could be left or right, left is better?
100%.
And what does not appear to be a full power shot. Again, more concerned about the placement than necessarily the distance. Very smart play by the veteran. They will get a casual relief from those areas. And he opts for the stretched out forehand to his right.
I don't want hole 8.
Blakely asking for it to get through. And Steve, as we move down the fairway, one thing you must note at home is we have now seen a huge variety of shots. A very smooth forehand there by Chris Dickerson, which hits. And the very smooth turnover there. And what a run by McBeth. And Blakely's straddle putt is wide right, not grabbing any metal. Chris cleans up, and the solid putt by Matthew Blakely. Again, talking about the various skill sets. Make sure your straddle putting is in tune when you come out here. You have plenty of things to step around. We're going to come back to you in a few moments after a word from our sponsors. We'll see you on hole number 9. And that should put Chris in putting range here. And McBeth's release also seems to be a bit low. It cut rolls to the left. Michael Joe with a putter off the tee. He knows it's good. Trying to duplicate James Snappy Cole's effort, who aced this earlier at 258 feet.
If that hit the basket, it hit it low.
And the lone forehand is short. We'll be back with you in a few moments after we check in with the women. And Matt Blakely from the right side of the fairway needed to throw a turnover shot, but he caught the branches above. And giving it enough effort.
I love the UDisc instant updates. You don't have to hit refresh. The scores just update and they light up. You know exactly what's going on. Paul McBeth with a very smart layup on that. He's going to card the 3. And sitting at 4 down, 3 strokes behind Nate Perkins is Jeremy Colling and Andrew Presno.
And taking no time to card the birdie 2 is Michael Johansen. And getting 3 out of the last 4. We see Chris Dickerson on a little run here.
And I'd even say that the last one, a par 4, getting a 4 on that is not going to lose you any strokes.
Blakely will clean up, so we're going to see 2 birdies, a par from McBeth, and a bogey from Matt Blakely. We're moving on to the second half of the course right here at the Idlewild Open, presented by Innova and the Nati Disc Golf Store. And puring the gap, going right up the middle is Chris Dickerson. In a moment, we'll be able to look on UDisc and find out just how far away Jeremy was when he carded the birdie 2 versus Michael Joe. And high and right also kicks him to the right. It's going to be a very challenging up and down from there. McBeth third to tee. And McBeth catches the same exact tree. And Blakely is filtering left. However, it looked clean. We'll be back in a moment after watching the women on hole 10. And McBeth asking it to get past, and somehow that remains clean. It'll be a difficult putt from there. Oh, just nicking a tree. and a lunging putt approach. Something from there. Blakely puts him up near the basket. He should have no problems for 3. And Michael Joe, again, quick work, even on the forehand, taking no time. And Chris Dickerson's going to have to be happy just walking away with a 3 here.
I'm going to say Paul McBeth.
Backhand drive, forehand approach, lunging shadow putt. I think it's exactly what I would say. It's a working man's 3 Dickerson will put in. We're going to move on to hole number 11 in just a few moments. Stay tuned. You're watching live disc golf here at the Disc Golf Pro Tour in Idlewild. And Chris Dickerson hits the banner, or placard I should say, that's short of the basket. He's inside the circle looking at a very steep uphill putt from there. Would you say it's better to come up short or long of this hole if you're not acing?
In my opinion, you want to be right or left, because if you're past it, you've got a death putt, and if you're short of it, you have, as Chris Dickerson is going to demonstrate, you have bad footing and a very tough uphill putt. That shot goes 25 feet to the left. These will be pretty exciting putts on the shortest hole in the course, 192-foot par 3.
This course measures in at more than 9,000 feet. For those at home doing some math, that means we're looking at an average of over 500 feet per hole. So this one being 192, it certainly made up for in a few other spots. Another good shot, finds himself 28 feet from the pin.
It's averaging about a half stroke under par. That was a very nice shot. Let's see how the ladies played hole 10.
Or 11. Uphill putt, no problem for Michael Joe. He'll take the 2. And also high on the entrapment there. We saw that by Michael Joe. It's almost as if they're compensating a little bit and put it a little bit higher than needed to. Both of them, however, caught, resulting in birdies. And that was low. I said earlier that looked about 28 feet. I'll correct and say that was closer to 22 feet by Blakely. Paul McBeth 2 steps inside that. And that's a star frame here on hole 11. We'll be back in a few moments after a word from our sponsors from Idlewild. And welcome to hole 12, the 644-foot par 4 that bends up and to the right. Great forehand shot by Chris Dickerson. McBeth lining up a destroyer. He's looking to do the same. And I was just about to note that it does not look like he gave that full power. However, that may have been a little too light on the release there, Steve.
Yeah, if you don't reach that corner, you're going to be in trouble here on the 12th. And Chris Dickerson showed us exactly what you want to do. Presume he's not in those trees. Matthew Blakely does the same. That looks like turned a little early, but it looks like it's in the fairway. Beautiful shot.
And MJ goes with a putter that's turning so gently and catches a tree. We'll be... And again, I spoke of the tricks needed here. I think that's a field goal by Michael Johansen as he splits the uprights on the forehand roller. What a shot. And he's going for, oh, he just misses the field goal. And puts that down, and it finishes out center fairway on the left side. Steve, this hole is playing, again, thanks to our stats over at UDisc.
If that can flex out, it's going to be a really nice shot. It looks like it might have gone past the basket. I don't know for sure, but that was amazing.
And Paul going with a driver, which is not something you see frequently on a second shot by McBeth. Not sure.
Yeah, wow. Sorry, MJ.
And MJ almost grabbing metal. And sits down right under the basket. Again, three of our competitors sitting at very low ceiling in front of him as he's putting slightly uphill. And that, very unfortunate there for Michael Joe after what looked to be such a good run on the previous shot.
Absolutely. We talked about the fast grass. It's wet. I'm going to guess that just skipped into those woods and cost him a stroke.
And McBeth for the birdie. Earlier, Steve, you said fast grass. I thought you were swearing at me or something, so I just ignored that comment. But McBeth is in for the birdie. Blakely left with less than 20 feet as well. Blakely converts. We're also hearing there may be a backup on the next hole, so we will have to assess exactly where the 215 card is at. Michael Joe will tap in. Chris Dickerson will do the same. And we'll be back with you after a few words from our sponsors right here on the Disc Golf Pro Tour from Idlewild.
It's the Mando. Turns left. Keeps turning left. I did not think that was possible. He is 55 feet from the pin. Is that a drop-in for him?
The putt has not been quite dialed in today, but he is definitely putting himself in position. Very impressive drive there by Paul McBeth. Matthew Blakely next to tee. And Blakely's line looks very similar. Just short, though. It gets caught up on the right side. Looked like a very good-looking line. Not quite as much height and just a little bit wider. He should have no problems getting up and down.
When you look at a hole that has an average over 4, and you think, wow, this should not be a par 3, the hole is designed for the best in the world, and 2 of the best in the world just showed why this is in fact a par 3, because you can get into the circle 2, but you've got to really know your disc. And Chris Dickerson, again, the same thing, a small skip. He's got about 120. But with a very slow green, there's a nice big hill behind that. He'll be able to run that and give it a great look at 2, and he's already thrown us a little bit from that distance.
Michael Johansen, 4th to tee. And you do not want to be short and left. He needs to come out of that. And it looks like that's fallen on the OB side. We'll see how the women played here earlier this morning. We'll be back in a moment.
I think that putt might be a little longer than he was hoping.
And the edge of the green catches that from just about rolling into the OB. Matthew using all 45 of his 30 seconds allotted there. Takes the inside track and lands right next to the basket. And the McBeth wiggle isn't enough. He misses it right. You cannot have a supporting point touching OB when you release your disc. So he was noting that he couldn't stand on the logs on the right side, short of the basket.
Paul McBeth is still standing there lining up the putt that he just missed. I think he's trying to zone things in. He doesn't want that to happen again.
Again, more often than not, if Paul McBeth has a chance to capitalize on a very impressive shot, he usually does it. He's one of the most clutch players in the game, and we've seen him wow us throughout the years. And that was one he simply didn't convert on. He'll tap in. Michael Joe's just ready to be done with hole number 13. We're going to move on to hole 14. We're glad you're joining us right here on the Disc Golf Pro Tour for live disc golf. And McBeth hits a tree in the center, then it kicks another tree on the right side. Blakely will be second to throw. He's also lining up a forehand. And Blakely gets the exact same tree. And just missing the same tree we saw Blakely and McBeth hit. Chris Dickerson with a great shot, gets a fist bump from Michael Joe. We're going to see a backhand here from Michael Joe. Looks like he's got a putter in his hands. And I think Michael Joe missed his line, but it won't be too punishing. We'll be back in a moment after. Sticking with the forehand and navigating up higher rather than keeping it low with a forehand. He's lining up some kind of a massive turnover, it looks like. And that is absolutely denied. That may go down as one of Paul McBeth's shortest throws, actually, in terms of a driver here. That netted him no more than 60 or 70 feet. He tried to go way up top. Had a very small window, as you mentioned, and after it hit the trees, he's lucky it came back and landed where it did. That could have ricocheted and went anywhere and cost him an additional stroke or two, but he still finds himself in the fairway, and now he's going to go a more traditional route with a forehand.
Yeah, when he threw that and we heard the loud crack, my thought was that he'd be lucky if it stays in Boone County. And he's basically in the middle of the fairway. If he can. This would be a very interesting shot. He goes just to the left of the first guardian tree, turns to the right. That is right where the green is. I don't know where that landed, but he might have a putt for par.
It's actually out of bounds, unfortunately, Steve.
Oh, no. I can do here on what I think is hole 14.
And that's, again, seemed like it missed his line. That was inside of where he was trying. That may net him a decent result, but and it just catches one of the later trees. We thought that was going to make it onto the green, maybe be looking at the basket. And that was, in fact, yes, just Chris Dickerson's second shot here.
Fresno. Andrew Fresno is currently finished with his round. Everybody else is still playing, and Michael Joe makes a very good run. Coming up just short.
And McBeth from way downtown, just inside the
very aggressive run by Matthew Blakely.
And Chris, as you said, converts here on the birdie 3. Clean up from just above the basket by Matthew Blakely. And we have just 4 holes to play here during our opening round of the 2017 Idlewild Open, presented by Innova and the Nati Disc Golf Store. We'll be back in a few moments.
These last 4 holes. He pulls that a little bit to the right. Next up, Michael Johansen. Hits a left tree, kicks off to the right. That's going to be a tight around the corner shot for him on his second shot. Next up, Paul McBeth. Very high release, comes off left. I don't know how deep that is, but that's going to be a very tricky outshot. You don't want to be off the fairway here. Matthew Blakely. He wants it to flip a little. It goes to the left of that tree. It's probably the best result. Let's see how the women played. Welcome back. Very good shot. Sets himself up very nicely.
And McBeth has nothing but a and McBeth goes with a 4, trying to see if he's got anything for a line, to see if he can get any forward progress rather than just simply pitching out. And it looks like, and there it is, no more than 35 feet at most, slightly up the fairway into the center. Blakely with a forehand that's tracking toward the basket. Looks to be a nice shot. He should have a putt from there.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shot by Chris Dickerson.
He took the thin gap.
solid par by Chris Dickerson. McBeth with just 5 feet to tap in. We're moving on. How many holes do we have, Steve?
The rest of the way down. These guys are going to be looking for a birdie 4 on this, and that's an easy way to get in trouble, especially with some wind high up. Chris puts this high up, hyzering back.
And that seems to be a perfect shot here off the tee. MJ not throwing a mid or a putter here. And again, we feel a gentle right to left breeze that's going to continue to push all these righty backhand drives further to the left. It's almost a headwind. I'm not sure exactly what angle that is. Coming in at from 2 o'clock maybe?
If they're driving north, I would say it's a northwest wind. No, a southwest wind, sorry.
And McBeth seems to give it a little bit more power. The spotter's going to go and chase it down. Now the good news is he will get all of that distance as he threw it very hard, but he is OB.
This hole is averaging almost 6. It is a par 5. It is the only par 5 on the course, and it is averaging close to 6. And again, in my opinion, these guys have the distance. If there's no wind, they could be looking for the 4. But you get in trouble like that, and that's how you get the 6. Uh-oh. That's it.
Matthew Blakely's turned over. It's heading towards the trees. There's not enough room. And what will be the problem is Matthew Blakely will not get very much distance. We're going to stay right here with Matthew Blakely.
Up with that headwind coming right at it. The smart play might be to just throw this 150, 200 feet and get on the other side of that hill.
And he opts for a huge hyzer out over the right OB. That carries towards the left OB. I think we're going to find OB over there as well. Is that correct, Steve?
That looks just like OB.
Right of the OB line is lining up his second shot. And he plays it wide right over the OB, and he's going to find himself in the center of the fairway, safe again.
Yeah.
And McBeth has turned that over. That is not coming back. And that is no good. Chris. And Dickerson's going to challenge the OB on the right side. He's looking for that to come all the way back. What a great shot. All right, let's see how the women did earlier on hole 16. Matthew Blakely is also still carrying again further left. That looks to be OB. Again, we'll get back. And Michael Johansen trying to keep this as clean as possible here. Oh, and almost throwing it in for what would have been his 7th stroke of the hole. And certainly giving it a run. Great effort. He's going to have
That's about 120.
and a solid. And Michael Joe will have no more than 12 feet for his par. 4, 5, 5, 6 would also be good.
Yeah. With a 4 cut. Matthew Blakely for the triple bogey. These last couple of holes have been pretty difficult for him. But Chris Dickerson making up ground. If he hits this putt, he will have sole possession of first place.
And Chris Dickerson was an addition to the card today. Originally, he was slotted for the 2 o'clock tee time. However, a late withdrawal from Nico LaCastro had a shift in positioning. And we're glad he's done so. We're moving on to hole 17. Great forehand shot by Chris Dickerson. Second to throw will be Michael Joe. And Blakely's hits a tree and carries left, but finds himself still in bounds. And Michael Joe opts for a different GT banger, and he gets the safe sign. You have to be on, and you have to hit your lines.
If you hit your lines, you're going to succeed. And to your point about being, that stays inbounds. He's going to have a putt to try to save the 4.
Chris goes with a high forehand shot from one knee, puts himself near the basket. Very quiet and peaceful out here. Blakely running at the cage.
Oh my gosh.
And with his outstretched leg, I think he can skip yoga this afternoon. He's wow. And no doubt by Dickerson. He's going to be very happy. I think we saw 2% of the field had birdied this hole. Is that what we saw earlier, Steve?
There have been 2 twos on this hole. That's correct.
Michael Johansen, Blakely, and McBeth will be tapping in just a few moments. We have one very long and challenging hole to go. Hole number 18. We also have a very long walk before we get there. You get an additional word from our sponsors. And as McBeth taps in, we'll sign off. We'll see you from the 18th tee in just a few moments.
Wow.
And a good-looking shot there by Chris Dickerson. Did kick a little left at the end. Again, a putter off the tee here by Michael Joe. Third to throw, Matthew Blakely.
He's asking for that to flatten a little more.
All right, we'll see how the Dickerson goes for a cut roller that does not stand up for him, and it does not make it out of the mouth. And a great shot there by Michael Johansen.
So we're going to walk a little ways down the fairway.
You're such a tease. All right, McBeth lays up to the center of the fairway. He's not going to be threeing from there. Trying to chop through Matthew Blakely's out into the open. Hopefully he can get up and down from there. And Dickerson lays down a roller that pops up, hits the tree, and then sits back down. And trying to recover. And there's a reason those are frequently referred to as Velcro trees whenever you find them on a course. They are very difficult to get past. And what a difficult line to attack there.
We'll be 4 down, and that'll be our lead card in round 2.
And Matthew Blakely off the front of the rim. We talked about it early in the round when the players were just getting started. It seemed as if people were missing a low. Unfortunately, 4.5 hours later, I think we're seeing more of the same. These players are tired and ready to be done. Dickerson will tap in. Paul McBeth will have his final tap in just a moment after Matthew Blakely does the same. And there you have it. Steve, it has